Manafort has apologized. Manafort has said, I am sorry for what I have done and for all the activities that have gotten us here today. So Paul Manafort, for the first time in this process, is publicly apologizing for the crimes that he has committed, telling Judge Amy Berman Jackson in a courtroom in Washington that he is sorry for what he's done. Ken, your reaction?
Of course, it's easy to say that, and it would have been surprising if he didn't, given all the criticism of his statement last week where he didn't utter any kind of remorse or apology. Now the question will be, does Judge Amy Berman Jackson believe him? Because let's face it, Hallie, white-collar defendants, college-educated defendants who come in suits before federal judges, they tend to express remorse, whether they feel it or not, because they know it's in their self-interest. Some would argue that his conduct, lying to the special counsel, breaking his deal, committing crimes even after he pled guilty, would suggest that he, in fact, does not feel remorse for this. And particularly the fact that his lawyer keeps saying that he wouldn't be here if he hadn't gone to work for the Trump campaign, which, by the way, Hallie, may well be true. It's certainly the view of Judge Ellis in Virginia, but it's also irrelevant. People get caught up in federal criminal prosecutions for all kinds of reasons. The feds don't catch every white-collar criminal. The fact is he committed these crimes, he's pled guilty, and now he faces the music.
Barbara McQuade, let me go to you now. And again, apologies in advance if I interrupt you. I have my phone in my hand, which is how we are getting the updates from our team inside the courtroom, watching as we speak Paul Manafort speak. What do you make of his apology?
I think it is significant, and it's something she'd be looking for. You know, so often you hear white-collar defendants talk about, I've already been punished enough already. I feel such shame and humiliation. And it is all about loss of their status in the community. And, you know, we don't see indigent defendants getting any break for that, for the humiliation they feel. So I do think it's significant. Now, I don't know that that means he gets a lower sentence, but at least it probably helps him from not getting a higher sentence than she might otherwise have given if he had failed to express that kind of remorse. But, you know, one of the things I think that bothered a lot of people about the sentence in the Eastern District of Virginia was to see the way white-collar defendants get such breaks when a judge says, I think these guidelines are simply too high. You know, based on what? That is based on actual data of what defendants have gotten historically in those kinds of cases. And so you do see that from time to time. And so I'm curious to see how Judge Jackson views white-collar defendants. You know, his guidelines are 17 to 21 years because it's capped at 10 years as a statutory max. That's where she should start. And the only reason to vary downward is because of mitigating factors. In this case, as the prosecution says, there are no mitigating factors. And in fact, there are aggravating factors. And so I would say if this were not a white-collar defendant, you would absolutely see a sentence of the statutory max 10 years. And so I'll be curious to see whether she does that or something different.
Joining the conversation, MSNBC legal analyst Nick Ackerman, former assistant U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York. Nick, we are getting another update from inside the court. Paul Manafort is telling the judge, I stand here today to assure the court that I am a different person who stood before you in October of 2017. So he said he's sorry. He said he feels like he is a different person now after the special counsel prosecutor issued a blistering rebuke of Manafort's conduct over the past decade.
I don't see how he's a different person. I think that whole statement rings hollow in light of the fact that he tried to obstruct the proceeding. He lied during his cooperation agreement. He said he was going to cooperate, did not cooperate. I just don't think that's going to get him very far. I mean, it looks so obvious after all the criticism before the court and Judge Ellis last week. I don't think he had any choice but to try and show some kind of remorse. But I don't think anybody for a minute is going to believe that. This guy has done nothing but manipulate the system all the way through. He manipulated documents with respect to the IRS. He manipulated documents with respect to his bank loans. And I think this is just another big manipulation. And the judge is going to take it that way.
The judge has called a recess. So we now have 20 minutes, so set the timer. After Paul Manafort has now concluded his remarks to the court, we are going to break now we are not going to break, but the court is going to break for 20 minutes. And when they come back, Chuck Rosenberg, Judge Amy Berman Jackson, presumably, will issue her sentence. She will speak, right, and explain why she is sentencing Manafort.
That's exactly right. Procedurally, once the defendant allocutes, that's the word we use for speaking in court, and in this case apologizing, hollow or not, the judge then pronounces sentence, and then the proceeding is over. And so she obviously wants to reflect on this a little bit.
Yeah.
Most of the judges in front of whom I practice didn't take a break. They would just go immediately to sentencing.
Do you think because this is so high profile, she wants to take a beat here?
Well, I think, look, she's a deliberate judge. She's a thoughtful and careful judge. She wants to think about what she's heard. Maybe there's something in the pre-sentence report she wants to read again. I don't know what the practice was in the Eastern District of Michigan, where Barbara was, but typically in Eastern Virginia, it was just one continuous proceeding without a break.
Barbara, what was it like? What's your sense of how this is going currently? Judge Amy Berman Jackson taking a break here, potentially thinking about what Manafort has said, his apology. We are getting more quotes in from our team. The idea that he says he is a different person now than the person who first came before the court.
The practice was the same, typically just goes straight through to sentencing, unless it was a lengthy hearing, as this one has been now, and unless there were things that the court wanted to reconsider. So not out of the norm or unusual to take a break. I wouldn't read too much into that. But the idea that he's a changed person, I think he has not demonstrated that. So people speak not only through their words but also through their actions. And by obstructing justice, by tampering with witnesses during the case, by continuing to lie after his guilty plea, based on what I've heard, and I certainly haven't heard everything that Judge Jackson has heard here. I don't know that I would take that all that seriously, that he's a changed person. I think that a reasonable judge will look at the guidelines of 17 to 21, capped at 10. I would expect that in the absence of mitigating factors, a 10-year sentence, and a significant portion of it to be consecutive with that was imposed in the Eastern District of Virginia, where there's only a very slight overlap in the tax conspiracy and the substantive tax counts there. And so I would expect a very small percentage of a 10-year sentence here to be concurrent.
Thank you for checking out our YouTube channel. Why don't you subscribe? It's really easy. Just click on that button down there. And for more news from MSNBC, click on any of these videos here for the latest interviews and highlights. You can get more videos from MSNBC with our newsletters. Head over to msnbc.com/newsletters to sign up.